We have a number of bills that I'm going to sign today that will help make Colorado one of the 10 safest states in the country.
After America's deadliest mass shooting of the year, we look at the gun control laws stalled in Colorado's courts. The state's considering a significant shakeup of its troubled Universal Pre-K program. The Colorado Republican Party finally finds a way to raise money from Donald Trump.
That's what 223 lives look like.
Hundreds of empty seats at a Shabbat dinner in Denver for the civilians held hostage on the other side of the world. That's tonight on Next. America's 565th mass shooting of the year is the deadliest to date. 18 people dead, 13 more wounded after a shooter attacked people at a bar and a bowling alley in Lewiston, Maine last night. Schools and businesses are closed there with the suspect still on the loose. Colorado has responded to gun violence like that here with a series of gun control laws passed by Democrats, but many are currently stalled in court. Kelly Rinke starts us off tonight with a look at how one gun law after another has been put on hold before they ever took effect.
We have a number of bills that I'm going to sign today that will help make Colorado one of the 10 safest states in the country.
Democratic leadership in April saw new gun laws as protection.
It's official. Congratulations.
A moment for celebration that a no compromises gun advocacy group saw as an attack.
It's just very frustrating that as we try to take these measures to reduce those gun deaths, that there are lawsuits filed against these very reasonable common sense measures.
Boulder's Mayor Aaron Brockett began a legal battle against that group before last spring. A year ago, the far-right group Rocky Mountain Gun Owners sued Boulder and other municipalities in the county over their bans on so-called assault weapons and large-capacity magazines. As the case continues, those bans still can't be enforced.
It's incredibly frustrating, right? Like, we passed these measures because of the death of 10 precious community members in the King Soopers horrific shooting.
Then state lawmakers passed its own laws this spring, raising the age limit to 21 to buy guns. Rocky Mountain Gun Owners sued again, and in August, a federal judge temporarily blocked that new law. Up in Boulder, the mayor knew gun control measures would be tested.
And I'm very proud of that our council unanimously opted to pass this strong set of gun violence prevention measures.
Next week, a federal court could block another gun control law. The same gun advocacy group filed a third lawsuit this month to fight Colorado's 3-day waiting period to buy a gun. They said it left people vulnerable to life or death situations. Even with all the legal battles, Boulder isn't worried.
I feel it was absolutely worthwhile to do when the lives of our residents are at stake.
So Rocky Mountain Gun Owners is suing Boulder along with Superior, Louisville, and Boulder County. Those parties have asked a judge just last week to make a decision without going to trial, but that could be months before any decision is made.
So Rocky Mountain Gun Owners kind of has this cycle where they ask gun owners for money to fund their legal efforts, and then they sue, and when they get successes, or at least partial successes like this, more money will roll in, that funds the next lawsuit, and then they start to kind of stack up.
Yes, but then at one point they were like, hey, we're involved in so many legal battles that our fund is kind of dwindling, so they've been asking for donations again. But yes, sometimes you'll kind of see people chiming in, this new law was passed, I'm going to, donate some money to Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. So again, it's this cycle that continues.
Yeah, they're fighting on a lot of fronts right now. All right, Kelly Rinke, thank you. Republicans who acknowledge that they're going to have trouble winning statewide races in Colorado these days are focused instead on school boards. One goal in some communities is to institute controversial conservative social studies standards. They were this close in Rifle until that effort failed last night. The school board voted instead to stick with the state-approved social studies program after months of debate about adopting what are called the American birthright standards. They promote patriotism, Christianity, and American exceptionalism. Board President Tony May is a vocal supporter of American birthright. The district standards review committee appeared overwhelmingly against American birthright. They told the board not one of their 50 or so people on the committee picked birthright standards as their first choice for the district.
Reaching this level of consensus between roughly 50 people from all walks of life and political perspectives is virtually unheard of in today's political climate. But we managed to do it.
The majority of people are asking for diversity, for inclusion, for equity, for teaching children the actual facts. It is your duty to represent the community, not your own agenda.
As of now, Woodland Park is the only district in Colorado to have adopted American birthright standards. Since a conservative school board and conservative superintendent made that switch in Woodland Park earlier this year, the district has lost roughly 40% of its staff. The people in charge of rolling out Governor Jared Polis's new universal preschool program think that they have a fix that is going to offer no-cost full-day preschool to thousands of families in need. But that solution is going to have to wait until next year. Our Marshall Zellinger continues his months of reporting on the bumpy rollout of universal pre-K.
Nearly 3,000 4-year-olds would qualify for full-day preschool funding next year under a proposal by the department that runs universal preschool. The Colorado Department of Early Childhood wants to add a qualifying factor that guarantees full-day pre-K for children living in poverty.
It's unfortunate that I was like the recipient of the first year and all the kinks had to be worked out.
In August, Sean was surprised to find out her son Christian would only get half-day preschool instead of full-day funding from the state. She had met the low-income qualifying factor, but in the summer, Universal Preschool announced full-day funding would only go to those who were low income and at least one of the following: a student with an individualized education program, if they were homeless, if the student was a dual language learner, or a child in foster or kinship care. Next year, there could be a new qualifying factor that guarantees full-day funding for families that are low income and living in poverty. Here's how. Low income means families who make 270% of the federal poverty level. That's $53,000 a year for a single parent of one and $94,000 a year for a family of 5. Next year, families who are at or below the poverty level will get full-day funding. That's $19,700 a year for a single parent and $35,000 a year for a family of 5.
I think if they implemented it this year, I could have benefited from it. So I think it would have saved me a lot of stress.
I think it is one part of a solution and a particularly important part.
Alan Greening was the first parent we spoke with who thought his son Grant had full-day funding that turned out to be half-day. Their school district is one of several covering the cost for the second half of the day. Alan has another child who will be in preschool in a few years. His family meets the low-income definition for universal preschool, but not living in poverty.
I'm happy for them to be singled out first, but I think then at that point, the school districts and the state have to get together like they ended up doing in certain instances this year to make additional money available for people a little further up that ladder.
This is a proposal that can be decided by the Early Childhood Department through rulemaking. It does not need to go back to the legislature. You can provide public comment, and I'll include a link on my story on 9news.com. There will be a hearing on this early next year, but because it's coming from the department, it's probably a sure thing.
We talk about this often. I was under the impression that the neediest folks out there were already guaranteed paid pre-K.
Apparently not. They were lumped in with the people who made 2.7 times the poverty level, so they were all fighting over the same pie, and you had to have one of those other qualifying factors. So what's going to change next year is this becomes one of the other qualifying factors, and the state thinks it has enough to fund full day for all of those families and someone who is low income and meets the other, one of the other qualifying factors.
This impacts a lot of families, impacts a lot of educators, so I'm glad you're all over it. Thank you, Marshall. Colorado's Republican Party has so little money it hasn't been able to pay staff, but they have found a new way to rake in fundraising by charging candidates to appear on the presidential primary ballot. Colorado Sun was first to report that ballot access fees made up more than 2/3 of the Colorado Republican Party's fundraising last month. And that's only 2 candidates who have paid up so far. Donald Trump's campaign gave the party $40,000 last month. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum paid $20,000 to get on the ballot. It has been years since Colorado Republicans or Colorado Democrats forced candidates to pay this kind of a fee, but it does happen in some other states. Trump's already paid to be on the primary ballot in at least 3 states. Trump's willingness to cough up $40,000 in Colorado suggests that his campaign is not worried at all about a lawsuit that seeks to keep him off the state's primary ballot. It's an obscure challenge under the 14th Amendment for inciting the January 6th insurrection. It's a long-shot lawsuit for sure. Judges already rejected multiple efforts to dismiss the case. It's set to go on trial on Monday. Colorado's last Republican governor is endorsing Congresswoman Lauren Bobert's primary challenger after obnoxious and lewd behavior got her tossed out of a theater recently. Former Governor Bill Owens referenced the character of Bobert's GOP opponent, Jeff Hurd. Owens is the only Republican elected governor in Colorado in the last 50 years. He left office in 2007. In a statement to Time, Owens called Hurd a man of character. Owens did not directly reference Bobert's theater incident, that led several elected Republicans on the Western Slope to abandon her. Bobert was thrown out of the Denver Center for the Performing Arts last month. Other patrons complained the night that Bobert was vaping and being disruptive, while she and her date appeared to be engaged in acts of public service.
Completely shocked. I mean, I still kind of can't believe what these allegations are saying.
Our investigation found years of negligence before a truck crash killed 5 people on I-25. Now truck safety advocates say what we laid out needs to be a wake-up call for the feds. A massive coal plant in Pueblo has been trouble since the word go. Now those problems are costing XL millions of dollars. And it is not an empty seat at the table. It is hundreds of empty seats. That's next. Our reporting here about a trucking company involved in a crash that killed 5 people on I-25 is now prompting calls for an industry-wide safety audit. Here's Mark Salinger.
A federal lawsuit alleges Caminantes Trucking operated trucks for 28 months without insurance. Then on June 13, 2022, one of its drivers slammed into a family of 5 on I-25 in Weld County. They tried to buy insurance an hour after the crash.
I was flabbergasted, completely shocked.
Zach Cahalan is the executive director of the Truck Safety Coalition in Washington, D.C. Following our story on Monday, the national advocacy group is now calling for Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to audit the entire trucking industry to find out how many other trucks are on the road with no insurance.
I call on Secretary Buttigieg to conduct an audit of all of the current carriers authorized to operate.
The lawsuit filed in federal court alleges that State Farm canceled Caminantes' insurance policy in 2020, but never told the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Because of that, they were allowed to operate for years without insurance until the crash.
Could you imagine losing all those people in your family and then finding out, oh, you know what? Federal government didn't make sure that they had insurance, so sorry.
The feds say it's up to the trucking companies to make sure the insurance companies tell the government if an insurance plan is canceled. If that sounds backwards or confusing or just plain wrong, Zach agrees.
We lack the means or maybe the will to aggressively enforce the rules that we already have, which are, in my view, minimal.
Lawyers say it was a crash 28 months in the making, with signs that were ignored everywhere that Caminantes Trucking should never have been on the road.
I still kind of can't believe what these allegations are saying. It's shocking.
The insurance minimum that trucking companies are required to have is $750,000 worth of coverage. That may sound like a lot, but the number is set over 40 years ago when $750,000 went a lot further than today. Today, if you get in a crash, it could cost millions of dollars just with medical bills. Even if a trucking company is insured, the payout pile could be really small.
I think you've opened a lot of eyes into what the risks are and what the potential dangers are. In addition to the lawsuits, there's also the criminal case against the driver.
Yeah, the criminal case is expected to start up next week up in Weld County. He is charged with homicide up there. If that case will go forward right now, to be determined, it could be delayed, but that truck driver is facing criminal charges. And of course, the trucking company, the Postal Service, which was contracting with this company, they're all facing lawsuits as well in federal court.
Yeah, excellent work on this story. Keep us updated. Thank you. Colorado's largest electric cooperative says it is not easy doing business with XL Energy. For their trouble, a jury is awarding Core Electric Cooperative millions of dollars for extended outages at one of XL's coal-powered plants. Core Electric Cooperative sued XL over alleged mismanagement at the Comanche plant down in Pueblo. The co-op blames XL for a whole bunch of issues with a generator at the plant, including 700 out-of-service days since the plant opened in 2010. This week, a jury awarded Core $26 million. Core wanted more than $200 million, not just for the outages, but for XL's decision to retire that plant years ahead of schedule. We have snow on the way, and Kathy Sabins here with weather.
Kyle, we've been enjoying an extended fall. It all comes to an end this weekend. And the fog today kept temperatures in the 40s this afternoon, well below the average of 61. These numbers, though, will look really mild compared to the forecast highs we're looking at for Saturday and Sunday. The storm approaches tomorrow with heavy mountain snow on the way. We have a hard freeze tonight and then again on Saturday night. All the advisories for snow have been to the north of us, but we're starting to see some snow showers in the northern mountains with a winter storm watch that goes out tomorrow night. Could see 8 to 18 inches of snow by Sunday morning. So need to pay attention to the forecast if you're heading into the high country. And tonight we've got a freeze warning along the Front Range. Right here in the metro area, temperatures are forecast to fall into the mid-20s. So that will certainly be a kill for many of the plants that are not covered and protected tonight. The fog will give way to some clearing tomorrow. We have a mild day in between storms. The snow does not start to fly until early Saturday morning, continuing off and on through Sunday morning. Accumulation amounts look to be in that 2 to 4 inch range for Denver here, but certainly heavier amounts in the high country. The cold's coming, 37 on Saturday, 30 with clearing late Sunday, hard freeze with lows in the teens Sunday night into Monday, but we've got Halloween dry, just chilly with temperatures in the mid-40s.
Is we really want people to understand that these are real people, that these aren't just numbers, these aren't just headlines.
And so a synagogue in Denver is setting a dinner table for guests who will not be there. Denver's Jewish community is preparing for Shabbat dinner ahead of the Sabbath. Heavy on their minds, the 224 civilians that Israel says are still being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza.
So many of us are just feeling helpless. Like, what do we do? How do we help? We need some muscles. My name is Menachem Learfield. Oh my gosh, Daniel, that is a heavy one. We are setting up a giant table. And the idea is that each chair that will remain empty represents one of the hostages that are currently in Gaza right now. Just set them out at each place. Oh, okay. You know, we look in the news, we read the headlines, we see the numbers. And it's hard to comprehend what 200 people really looks like. You know, to see a table that long filled with 220 plus chairs, realizing that each one of those represents a person and that these aren't just numbers, these are people with stories and lives and loved ones who are praying and waiting for them to come home. And when you see it, there's something visceral. I mean, you look at the setup now, we're not even halfway done. You know, that's what 223 lives look like. And the numbers keep on going up. Like, we're deeply suffering right now. We are feeling this deep, deep pain of our brothers and sisters. Is we really want people to understand that these are real people. That these aren't just numbers, these aren't just headlines. These are real people with real lives, with real stories, with loved ones who are hoping and praying for their release. And anything we can do to bring awareness to the fact that they're still in captivity, we're going to try to do. Because we're not going to rest and we're not going to stop until our brothers and sisters are brought home.
We'll finish with your feedback next. You get the last word as always. Jerry writes in to say, I'm under no illusion you will read this. Well, then of course I'm going to read it, Jerry. As a retired social studies teacher, Jerry says, and a conservative, I wish teachers would realize it's not their job to espouse a certain political position. Students don't need to know teachers' political leanings, he says. They need to be taught the facts and learn to make their own decisions. More feedback on our political reporting, a tweet that says, acts of public service. Is that what the kids are calling it these days? I actually don't know what the kids or the members of Congress are calling it these days, but there is something special about one-on-one constituent service, and she certainly has a grasp on that. We'll see you next time.